Yeah, what's up, world? I forgot I had set that as an outro. See you next time. Works. It's an intro, outro, but welcome everybody to our Mix What I Like live Sunday morning live. Peace, everybody. Please do like, share, subscribe, support the platform however you can. Links in the show description, Patreon, channel membership, all those things are welcome as well. But at least subscribe, put a comment, put this in your socials. And come on through. It's good to see everybody. Appreciate you. Welcome, Chitty Macha. Good to see you again as usual. And yeah, sounds like church. That's church to me. And no, somebody asked, no, Sith Lord Prince. That's not Jill Scott, though. Her edition of New Cheese, her new edition of New Cheese Front Porch did just drop recently. And it is off the hook. And Jilly from Philly, Jilly may be from Philly, but she has a deep and profound respect for the DMV and that pocket. Boy, I'm telling you, that pocket got her at some point. I don't know her life story like that, but that pocket. So she did a phenomenal one. But that's DC Vibe, VYBE band, Vibe band, and I don't know everybody's name in the band, unfortunately, including the sister's name who was singing that. But and I should. I've seen them, although there's been rotating singers, but I've seen the band perform so many times. And that's on my bucket list now, though, by the way. I want to be at a New Cheese taping. I want to be in that, whatever the live crowd is behind the camera. I want to be in there one time for that. That is it's one of my favorite channels. And I was just watching just yesterday, Jill Scott's a couple days ago, but just yesterday I was watching Black Alleys. Black Alley has a very good one. Turn me up. Turn me up. Yeah, they kill it. VYBE. Vibe, DC Vibe Band, VYBE, and you can look them up at DCVYBE, I believe .com, but DCVYBE, and yeah, uh, yeah, Jill Scott, Jill Stein, Black Jewish Alliance. Um, Shout out to everybody that's been watching that series too, and shout out to Cam James for hosting me for a conversation on his platform and being open to some criticism and offering some of his own. And I think he was right, by the way. He was very polite with it, and didn't make as big an issue of it as he could have probably. But I agree with him that the live response format is not the best for providing the best analysis. And I admit I went into it with such a low respect for Skip Gates and that whole project that I didn't think about, well, let me prepare and be, even more than usual, which is not often that much. But with that, I was like, nah, I don't care. But I do agree that he didn't say this, but I took it this way, that I do agree that if I want to have a better, maybe a better analysis, a more helpful analysis, and a critique of someone, I'm not opposed to that a more thoughtful pre-recorded or some sort of longer form discussion, have a non-live reaction would be better. So if someone is in that situation again, I might, yeah, no, that's my point. So Chitty Matcha, it's difficult to approach Skip Gates with a measure of respect. No, I don't approach. I have zero respect and have no intention of approaching him respectfully. But but my point was with Cam's presence, that you know, and again, Cam didn't say this, so I'm projecting here, but I think that it might have, if the goal is to be more than just critical of Gates and to be helpful of a potential even comrade at some point, but yeah, and he is very good at exposing the financial scammers. But anyway, thank you, Will Red. Yeah, but the one thing that I did mean to encourage, and I would, maybe we should even do something around here with it. I went back and read like three Ishmael Reed articles that we didn't end up talking about, but I did go back to reread them in preparation for that discussion. And one of them was Ralph Ellison and the Agony of the Token, which I think was somewhat reworked for tablets on tokens and tokenism, which is I love the way Reed writes, but the well studied and justifiable hate that he brings to it on top of it is so wonderful. And then he had one on Black Agenda Report called Henry Louis Gates Got Ordained as the Nation's Leading Black Intellectual, back when Rachel Maddow coined him as the nation's leading Black intellectual. It's just, which if that should just be it. What more do we need? And then the Greenblatt tweet that again should just put a complete and total end, like, and as I said, it's I'm over here doing all these reviews and whatnot, and and Jonathan Greenblatt saying, I recently sat down with Henry Louis Gates and other leaders to talk about the importance of revitalizing the historic collaboration between Black and Jewish Americans. I can't wait to tune in tonight for the PBS premiere, Black and Jewish America, an Interwoven History. And I'm saying I'm doing like I've watched and reviewed all 4 episodes, and all we needed to do was see this. This is all you would need. And again, I'm curious, like, who are these other leaders? So, all right. So, DC Joe Black, uh, mentioned this, and yeah, I was just initially wanting to do my normal, and I'm not going to add much to it. So if you want all the serious analysis about the pending coming war, please check the Remix Morning Show and all the other discussions on Black Liberation Media. I saw a great one yesterday on Millennials Are Killing Capitalism, and about Iran and the what were they calling it, the Epstein class. So we had coined the academic Epstein class, and then on Max C, they were coining the Epstein class more broadly, as to point out, as I interpret it, oversimplifying, that the attack on Iran is an attempt to distract from all that's being raised with Epstein's files. I did watch one other thing that I just want to play one little bit of from Ben Norton's coverage. Adnan, U.S. military bases getting hammered. The Gulf states don't have things underground right out of the open. The arrogance, yeah. So, and Iran has said that they're all open targets now, and yeah, Adnan was part of that millennials discussion, which was really good. But I thought, just to play a little bit of what Ben Norton had to say here about the continuity and the purpose of all this. I just want to play the end of this video.
This is about
in the show description, but as he's rightly saying, this is whatever all the claims are, whether it's the focus on the claim that Iran is up to no good with its nuclear program, or it is about distracting from Epstein. I think what Ben says here is as the continuity of imperialism is really important. So I just wanted to play the last few minutes of his commentary here.
Imperialism. And the strategy of the U.S. empire today is very clear. Washington wants to install another puppet in Tehran. And who's the puppet the U.S. is supporting? None other than the so-called crown prince, the fail son of the former U.S.-backed dictator, the Shah, and the former Israeli intelligence officer, Barak Ravid, who rebranded as a journalist after working for Israeli intelligence agencies. He reported that the Trump administration has been secretly meeting with the so-called Iranian exiled crown prince, in scare quotes, and expressing support for him to try to put him in power as a puppet. Let's keep in mind, this guy has never had a real job. His entire life, which, by the way, he spent most of his life living in the United States, working closely with the U.S. government to try to overthrow Iran's government. And now that the U.S. and Israel are waging another war of aggression against Iran, this fake so-called crown prince, Reza Pahlavi, went on Twitter and he called on the people of Iran to overthrow the Iranian government with the support of the U.S. so they can put this puppet in power. He said, quote, "The aid that the president of the United States promised to the brave people of Iran has now arrived. This is a humanitarian intervention," end quote. He said, quote, "The Islamic Republic is collapsing," end quote. And he sent a message to the military, police, and security forces. He said, quote, "Join the people and help bring about a stable and secure transition. Otherwise, you will go down with Khamenei's sinking ship and his regime," end quote. That's a threat. This puppet of the U.S. is saying that they will eliminate any members of the military, police, and security forces who refuse to be puppets and commit treason and work with the U.S. and Israel to overthrow their government. And if you want an idea of what the US would like to do to Iran, look at what the US empire did to Syria. For years, the US government spent billions of dollars arming and training extremists to overthrow the Syrian government. And in late 2024, they succeeded. And who took over Syria? None other than the former leader of Al Qaeda, after the US media whitewashed this extremist who, again, was literally the leader of Al Qaeda. And now he's being invited to the White House to meet with Donald Trump, this former leader of Al Qaeda who declared himself the dictator of Syria. He never was elected. He has no democratic mandate. This is exactly what the US wants to repeat in Iran.
So yeah, obviously, and I'll add the link to that in the show description. Also, folks haven't seen it already, but Ben is usually on point with all of that, and I just thought that was a fascinating. He goes through in that video. He goes through and reminds not only of what's happening right now with the re-invasion or the new invasion and Trump being the first to actually bomb Iran, president that is. But he goes through the history of the post World War II overthrow of the previously democratically elected leadership, and then the imposition of reactionary leadership, and then when that is overthrown, now they want to put back the son of the dude that they had formerly installed previously. That's yeah, Ben Norton's work is really good. But yeah. So by the way, everybody, and I think I just saw her show up. Speaking of horrific narratives, etc., and so forth, and repeating narratives of imperialism, please come back in a couple of days for another live with Samantha Youssef and our discussion of the voice of Hind Rajab, and how the film, never mind the killing of Rajab and her family, but the film is a masterclass in propaganda, as Samantha Youssef has been pointing out. So please come back for that on Tuesday morning at 11 a.m. because yeah, I'm not even gonna say too much. It's just the only thing holding all this together are these narratives, because everything else is they have no other choice. Because once the narrative falls apart, what was that old clip from the Bruce Lee film? The enemy has only images and illusions. Destroy the image, and you will defeat the enemy. Something like that. So, all right, let me just get to some of my more normal silliness. So the serious portion of the program has now concluded. So if you have something more serious to attend to, or you're looking for something more serious, please. No harm, no foul. You will not be offending me one bit. By the way, I think if things go the way they will today, we might even we should have some time for some Q&A. So if anybody has something they want to raise with me, feel free to stick around. Otherwise, like I said, please go back and watch Saturdays with Renee and our discussion with Lawrence Grand Prix yesterday. If you missed that, please go watch all of Black Liberation Media. Millennials Are Killing Capitalism, because this is about to descend. There'll be a little bit of seriousness, a little bit, but this is about to descend into So as I said, if there's a lot of serious problems going on in the world, I'm not going to be addressing them here for the rest of this program. It's going to be some stupid stuff with maybe a sprinkling here or there of something, I don't know, maybe a sprinkling here or there, but all right. Thank you very much for the super chat, Morning Gramps. Hope you're having a good Sunday. Yikes. Yeah, but what did there's really nothing to worry about. Okay. Oh, real quick, shout out to Solomon Comajon at the Niamburu Cultural Center over there at College Park, Maryland. Invited me to talk about my book on Friday, and had a little bit of fun there. I tried to do a little scripted write up, admittedly, because I wanted to impress my oldest. Both my daughters were there. My wife was there, but I was trying to impress my kids, and it was all right. It didn't really. The performance, it's not, could have used some work. I could have used some work on the performance. But the video is up on Solomon's channel, Your World News. So I'll make sure the link is in the show description if you really want to see it. It's it's all right. It's all right. I like, again, like with a lot of the stuff, the attempt was all right, but it was all right. It was just all right. But all right, here we go. Let's see. Let's start. So we just started another report from Katz Radio Group. Black buying power to top $2.1 trillion in 2026. And there's nothing new to report here. It's the same bad analysis, false claims, misrepresentation, no citation, no data. But I did like one thing that I saw in here that they base this on, and I don't see I see my notes again did not populate. Let me just double check and make sure I didn't save this as a PDF already. But while I'm looking for that, well, anyway, Black Americans now account for 49.2 million people, or 14.4% of the U.S. population, and their economic influence continues to grow, according to a new analysis from the Katz Radio Insights and Analytics team. The report, The Importance of the Black American Consumer 2026, highlights that the Black population has increased 24%. So look at so by the way, so two things just quickly before I've even finished that sentence. One, if somebody can actually find this. No, wait, this is the report I did find, and I did download it because all right, we might just have to redo the whole thing here while I'm here, the whole process. Where did I put it though? And it's not showing up here. All right, we'll just redo it again. The long story short is, well, anyway, all right. But before I've even finished that one sentence, the report is available. I was about to say it was like the other report where you can't find it, but this one I was able to find, and I'll come back to that in a second. But as it says here, it does something. If you go all the way back to the very beginning of my discussion of this buying power nonsense with Black Agenda Report around 2008, 2009, the one of the first things that I showed, some of which I think I do bring up in the book, I probably should have made a bigger deal out of it, is that the part of the way they make the claim about this buying power and this importance is to make these kinds of silly references that are ultimately irrelevant. If I could just make this a little bit bigger. So The report, The Importance of the Black American Consumer 2026, highlights that the Black population has increased 24% since 2005 and is projected to grow another 35.7% by 2060, even as the non-ethnic white population declines. The median age of Black Americans is 33.7, younger than the total U.S. median of 39.2, underscoring the group's long-term commercial potential. Okay, so this is exactly what I was saying from that initial look many, many years ago. And I think it was the Selig Center then doing it this way. How are they arriving at this claim that buying power among Black people is going to improve and become stronger? They can't do it economically because, again, this is not based in anything. This is why, again, when you actually do look at the reports, all Selig Center can say is estimates and projections based on consumer survey reporting and data, which is just taking a snapshot of a handful of people and saying, well, if this amount of people, and extrapolating and saying, well, if this many Black people spent this much on this at this given time, then we could say out throughout the whole year, the entire community would spend this much. All right. But they have no real way of saying what buying power is because it's not an actual economic variable. It's nothing that economists actually use. So what do? They come up with nonsense like this. In that initial one that I pointed to years and years ago, they said things, the one I remember was they said something just like this here. Said differently back then. The amount of Black people who were aging into the late 60s, early 70s, where spending declines, was decreasing, meaning that, and they used that. In other words, they were saying because fewer Black people live long enough to reach the age where people become old and don't spend, that was a sign somehow that Black people's spending power was increased. And they're doing this, a version of that right here, because the median age of Black people is younger than the average in the country. The median age of the average, the median age of the country. They're saying this underscores the group's long-term consumer potential. Obviously, one of the reasons why Black Americans are younger is because Black Americans don't live as long. And somehow they're twisting that into some sort of sign of economic strength. So this is sort of what I'm saying again, why this reporting continues to permeate and continues to trickle down into the bad analyses of people who don't check. Buying power among Black consumers has surged 71% from 2010 to 2021, is projected to reach 2.1 trillion by 2026. The study also finds strong financial momentum, with 24% reporting they are financially better off than a year ago and 46% expecting further improvement in the year ahead. So again, because someone says I'm doing better than I was last year, and because some says I expect to do better going forward, this is a sign of strong financial momentum. Again, so none of this is based in actual economic data. It's not based on income trends, wealth trends, sectors of the economy, business, none of that. The number of Black Americans 18 and over with a net worth of 500,000 or more has risen 70% over the last 5 years, outpacing U.S. growth. Again, I don't know what that means because they don't really show us how they reach this conclusion. But it could be if you go from 2 to 4, you double, but that doesn't mean that many people are doing that well. So to say that the amount of Black Americans 18 and over with a net worth of 500,000 rose doesn't really tell us what that really, again, it's not a measurement of income or wealth. It's just saying that a few more are doing better than before, but that doesn't say anything about the condition of the entire community. And then ultimately, of course, the point of all of this being that this is in a radio online news story. The point of all this is to say to those ad buyers, spend money with Cat's Radio Group, because if you invest in Cat's Radio, we will deliver you Black consumers who are to at least certain extent our target audience, and we will sell them to you and they will buy your products. So again, the point here is not to educate Black people into to understand how the economy works and what is the relationship to it. It is to get ad buyers to spend money through Cat's Group on radio. All right, so you can get the report. So you go through here, and I'll just do it again, unless it remembers me. Because you got to put in, hold on a second. You just got to fill in the name here. And I'm saying I'm from Morgan State, and I'm a professor, and I have my email address, and I am not a member of CATS, and I am, let's see, I'm doing media and digital video, and I don't want any of the other things. And there's the report, presentation, download. And then I'll just switch the screens here. And then here's the report. So if you just click the link in the story, it'll take you to this report. And then it will, I'm just going to skip here. This is where they're getting their buying power numbers. And the only reason I really wanted to do this was to show you once again. Let's see. Let's see here. Where is the zoom for this? Let's close this. And then if you just, let's see, I can probably get it to, here we go. If you just zoom in here, it's saying the source, the Selig Center for Economic Growth, the Nielsen Engaging Black Audience Diverse Intelligence Series, which I've already criticized here, and then a couple of others. All right. But of course, it's Selig and Nielsen. And the Selig report, although I don't think I didn't spend, I think it's up to like $200 now for the new report or whatever. I haven't purchased the new report, but anyway, if anyone can demonstrate that they've changed their methodology since I have looked at it, please let me know. But part of what I'm saying, though, is that as I started off with, in addition to Selig just simply saying a handful of consumers, because all they do is go to Bureau of Labor Statistics, who have, as I demonstrated in my book, are misrepresented. Their work is misrepresented by Selig. They take these consumer spending reports of a handful of consumers, and then they extrapolate to basically say, really what they're saying is, if you take all Black workers and take all of their income, it would equate to $2 trillion. And then what they're saying is, because the goal of the corporate world is to get all of the money that consumers earn, in this case, Black people, then what they're looking at is that entire pool, so-called, as something to be collected by those who own the economy. So all right. All right, everybody, please do like, share, subscribe as we continue moving on. Do all the things, put a comment and all the whatchamacallits. Let's see, what did I have here? Oh yeah, it was Nielsen doing the same thing. So this is just Nielsen coming back again. The loyalty building advantages of embracing Black audiences. And again, this is what they mean by buying power. The loyalty building advantages of embracing Black audiences, ahead of the curve, moving the culture in the market. Brands respecting cultural nuance isn't just good marketing, it's driving effective strategies on where and how to show up and delivering bottom line impact. With an inclusive approach and a data-driven strategy, diving deeper into Black audience trends can be a guidepost to where the culture and the market are heading. Now, this is actually important because in a minute, we're going to play a clip from 50 Cent and a discussion of what 50 Cent is saying, as though, again, Black America have this power driving the culture that particularly FBA can harness and demand be paid and respected appropriately, with this idea that Black people will I guess it's kind of like it's being argued. It's kind of like a reparations piece, because Black people drive the culture. If they're paid appropriately, then Black people will be rich, I guess is simply the argument. And of course, what it fails to realize is, again, as it misses the point of what these buying power reports are meant to demonstrate in the first place. Not the misrepresented and perceived and mythologized economic or political power of the Black consumer or community. It is the power of those who own the economy to extract and vacuum away from the Black community every penny that the Black community is paid for in exchange for its labor, in exchange for its exploited labor and the wealth it's already producing, those who do own the economy. So driving popularity and driving pop culture is not a sign of being politically or economically powerful. It means you have the ability to popularize what others own and will benefit most from in its sale, in the exchange, in the wealth produced from that exchange. So with a projected buying power of $2.1 trillion in 2026, Black consumers deliver significant economic impact. 2 is the footnote. Let's just, and there it is again, the Selig Center for Economic Growth. And I love how, again, and I think I've showed this one before, they don't even, there's no link here, and there's nothing, there's no report being referenced. And then everything else is just Nielsen. All their sources, Nielsen. And it's saying Black consumers deliver significant economic impact to those who own what they're buying. And it's not an economic impact that can be used within its own community. So that's that. And then it's just, Black people watch this much TV, Black people like the Olympics, Black people like anime, Black people like reality TV. So put your ads there. That's what this is. And again, because it keeps coming up in these presentations, but the failure of, in this case, of the commercial Black press is in promoting this, is in promoting this mythology as it's looking to attract the ad revenue to satisfy the largely Black middle class bourgeois ownership. Yeah, citing themselves as a source. Not only is that technically plagiarism, by the way. Well, no, actually not. I mean, if you cite your own work without referencing it, it's plagiarism. So that's not, having a reference is not plagiarism, but it is circular illogic, and it's bad scholarship. It's bad reporting. And if it's not an intentional psychological operation, I think what's most interesting about that claim is that how would you tell the difference in terms of the impact or the goal? So one other reason why, and I'm definitely not an expert in this, but this story did catch my attention, that one other reason why I think that this buying power stuff is nonsense is that there's been some reporting this week in the economic journalism spaces about what they're calling here the canary in the $1.8 trillion coal mine. And what they're talking about is the $1.8 trillion private credit market. And what I thought was interesting, and all that I know what that means is that it's a measurement of the amount of investment and lending coming not from banks or publicly traded banks or entities, but all from private investment and private lending. And the reason I'm bringing it up not to be is to say again that the private credit market, that is the market created just by private entities and individuals and investment houses investing in the economy, is bigger. That alone is bigger than the buying power, so-called, of Black America. That was the only reason why I wanted to bring it up. That a small pool of much more owned and controlled wealth among a smaller amount of private investors and lenders is worth more than this so-called economic strength of buying power in all of Black America. So I just thought that was one. All right, so I mentioned this. Someone sent me this, and I've seen these videos a couple times from this platform, and it's a lot of FBA kind of nonsense, and they're back at it here. And but so I don't, in terms of what's said here, I only watched this 6-minute clip, so I don't pretend to know where else the rest of this conversation went. But it's what we see here in just this short discussion contains many, many, many errors. So,
Black History Month, we should always focus on us, our culture, our lineage, and be very proud of it. Now, 50 Cent is going to point out something about our culture in particular, about how we bring a lot of money to corporations and how if we don't do certain things, nobody even fool with it. Let's go ahead and check that out.
Our culture is so strong.
So he started off. So again, I just want to reframe. Carter G. Woodson didn't start Black History Month just so Black Americans could raise up and praise their culture. There was an internationalist goal. There was a diaspora recognition, and there was an effort to have Black History Month politicize Black people in a more critical and radical way. I'm not arguing Woodson was some left militant, but he was certainly not a narrow nationalist and was not looking to just narrowly and emptily praise what Black people have done for this country for the sake of praising what Black people have done for this country. All right. Similarly, there's been an expansion of it, of Negro History Week, his original concept, by many Black radicals to make much more of it. And then as I and others have argued, Black August is the more appropriate, non-commercial, uncorrupted, relatively speaking, I think better way of praising and appreciating what Africans in the United States have contributed to the world, particularly through militant struggle, not from just a narrow focus on, as he said, as the host here just said, on what Black people can contribute to the state and to corporate America. But let me just start this part again.
You don't do certain things, nobody even fool with it. Let's go ahead and check that out.
And yeah, again, Black people setting the cultural, the cool, the trending standard is not new. It is also not new that Black people are not in economic or political control of that process and don't benefit from that process. So, and and to the extent that it's not understood as part of the neo-colonial manipulation and management of an exploited population, then we lose sight of the point here. And this is why I think videos like this and discussions like this constantly do lose sight of it. That it shouldn't be to highlight Black people's contribution to cool and to corporate earnings as a sign of, well, Black people should be respected more or paid more or offered reparations as a result of it, or this is again a sign of our limited weddedness to the United States. No, it's a sign of how this colony was established and the function media, celebrity, and popular culture play in managing and maintaining that colonial relationship. So smashing that relationship is more important than saying let's benefit from that relationship, which would ultimately only ever mean a handful of corporate business, celebrity, bourgeois, elite members of the community, quote unquote, benefiting. So unless it's saying, so again, that's why I keep saying get over the buying power thing and let's get to the actual GDP of the country and get to the point where it's been reported again now that the top 1% of the United States is worth more than twice the country's GDP at like $54 trillion. So that's the point. That's what happens when Black people drive cool. That coolness is used to drive wealth ever and upwards to that 1%.
Our culture's so strong. Bro, when you look at high-end, if we don't wear it, it don't sell. Right. It will not sell if we don't wear it.
Right. We control.
The other thing that's kind of bothered me about the way it just kind of hit me is that, again, if we really are honest about it and get really to it, I am maybe as biased in favor of Black America as many of these conservative lunatics are. I really do. I think what Black people in the United States have produced culturally, this, that, and the third, is better than every da-da-da. I'm with all of that. But what makes Black people's contribution so strong, as 50 is saying, it is not some. I would prefer, at least, to rephrase that as to check the bias of my bias. To say this is not the unique specialness of Black America in distinction to every other group in the history of humanity. To say that Black America is somehow better than every other group in human history. It's better understood as great and unique and wonderful as Black people in the United States are. It is our relationship to empire. It is our proximity to the U.S. as empire, and proximity to the way to a use of media in an imperial setting that projects Black people around the world in ways other communities could not have been exploited and could not be. So one of the reasons why, as 50 is saying, this Black people drive so much culture is because that is part of how the exploitation of Black people has been put to use by this country, by a group of ruling white elites who have not produced anything new. And what they do produce, they don't really want to share as pop culture. That goes back to even to the other discussion about why Jews were given Hollywood and vaudeville and all that. The ruling white elite don't want that. Other than its power to manipulate and project as propaganda and counterinsurgency what those in power want. But again, it's not. But it's being presented here, and I get it. The bias is important, but it's being presented here as if Black Americans are so unique and special, and that in and of itself is what drives all of the trends and the thises and the that, without understanding, as I think is important to do, that the structure, the means of production that take advantage of Black cultural production and exploit it and project it as a weapon. This is why Hillary Clinton said when she was Secretary of State, we're going to use hip hop the way we used jazz once upon a time to promote an image of unity and diversity and American superiority. So that's all right. It's here to serve white elite interests, to entertain, to mollify, to exploit, to extract, to suppress Black radicalism, all of those things. But it has not. But it has less to do with some all world, all universe uniqueness among Black people here in the U.S.
That completely.
Yes, we always control cool.
Right? Look, when you see Yeezy at Adidas, that's not the first time we saved Adidas. The first time, Run's house.
Whose house?
What?
And again, that's the point. This is not the first time Black Cool saved a white corporation. That's the point. The cool is used to save a white corporation. And how did it work? An Adidas rep went with, at the invitation of Russell Simmons, to go see Run DMC perform after they had already produced the song. And when the Adidas exec saw everybody holding up the Adidas at the concert and rocking with the this, the that, he said, "Oh, we could take advantage of that." So yes, Black people drive cool, but then that is only of value to the extent that the machine picks it up and projects it and expands it. Then it becomes weaponized and turned into something else. That's when it becomes something that can save an Adidas and save a United States as an empire, when it gets plugged into the machine.
Shout to Adidas. They get back to billionaire space, doing extreme amounts of sales, made a boatload of $80 million.
Now, I remember when Run DMC went with Adidas. They even made a song called My Adidas, right? And that alone.
But again, I don't know if he's not aware, but the song had already existed. And then the exec got on board and turned it into part of their marketing.
Kind of took off everything when they made My Adidas. And My Adidas was a hot record at that time period. And they saved Adidas. 50 is 100% right. That is Black history. That's what you call recent Black history, Black American history. Shout out to Daphne Springs.
See, but this is what I'm saying. This is what I'm saying. So the pride here is in saying, it's not in saying, let's have a revolutionary reordering of our relationship to this process. It's saying, let's get our fair share of this exploited process. Let's get our reparations and get our proper praise for building Adidas. It's not raising any questions about why does Adidas exist? Why does the mass production, the monopolized mass production of clothing exist? Where is this in helping the wealth of the entire community?
But anytime that we put our hands on something as a culture and we say, hey man, this is what it is, it's not only get accepted by the overall community,
and kind of also to this whole buying power point in the two Black supply chain problem. It's, as he's saying, when we get our hands on something, it's not when we build and produce something ourselves. Again, he's unwittingly speaking to this colonial relationship that exists here. This unfree exploitative relationship that still exists here. Black people can engage Adidas or some other mass some already previously existing product that has been accumulated and monopolized in that space by one or two or a handful of corporations. Yes, Black people can get plugged into that and end up creating wealth for that corporation, but without a political movement that demands redistribution of the wealth created from that exchange, it really doesn't. The false pride and puffing up the chest of the Black American community is missing the point. That's why, as I showed you just a minute ago, from the perspective of Nielsen and Selig and the Cats radio and the marketing media community, the puffing of the chest is something they take advantage of, because they say, oh, Black people just want to be acknowledged for their Blackness, for their put some black on it. They're not asking the FBA type, certainly. They're not asking for ownership. They're not asking for redistribution. They're not asking for unionized labor. They're not asking for a shutting down of sweatshops. They're not asking because, damn well FBA don't care about immigrant labor. They don't care about that. They're just saying, stop ripping off our culture and taking advantage of our culture. The only reason that can take place is because of the pre-existing colonial relationship, the pre-existing monopolized corporate media environment that would allow for whatever bubbles up as a potential trend to be taken advantage of. The idea that Black people could start a trend, control it from the point of the means of production, the promotion, the projection, and the wealth it produces is missing the point. Black people cannot do that. So calling as some matter of pride for a recognition of that, absent some more meaningful political project, which I'm not sure exactly where he's going with this because I've only watched this few minutes of a clip here. But as far as I'm aware, what is it that they want beyond reparations from this country? And if you think the United States is going to turn a recognition of this, which they already know, into reparations for FBA, to the extent that would ever happen and not be, if we don't see that as something that's meant to destroy radicalism, then I don't know,
it gets accepted
to my point,
globally.
they miss the point all the time anyway.
And if we don't put our hands on something, wear something, advocate for something, co-sign something, it don't go nowhere.
That's also not true. Let's not do too much either. It's not this, because that would argue that no white fashion or other sort of business has been successful without Black people promoting it. Let's not go too far here. They're able still to do quite well with their white models and white celebrities and white thises and that's, and of course their white consumer base. But to your point, I get the point.
This goes right back to why they want us out there in these ICE protests, because as long as we're not out there, it has no legitimacy. It has no moral cap.
So this is where FBA again reveal themselves as conservative neo white nationalist compradors. He turns this whole thing into Black people drive culture into, instead of a critique of the economy, the means of production, and where the wealth goes, he's now turning this into, that's why the Latinos are mad that Black people aren't participating enough in these anti-ICE protests, because if Black people don't do it, it doesn't pop off. First of all, I don't know if he's correct about that. I feel like the ICE protests are doing well, maybe not well enough, but they're doing well even with this COINTELPRO-like effort among FBA folks to get Black people to not be part of any sort of rebellious activity. And then the suggestion is that as if ICE is only here to get rid. I mean, he's following the conservative news, the Fox News agenda by saying essentially they're only attacking the illegal immigrants anyway. So why should Black people be out there in the first place? But yeah, this is a wild twist.
Because we're not there. Everything we touch, we will turn it to gold. We are the people that have the true Midas touch in America. These people know that. If it's a social media platform, if we own it, it gets hot. If we walk away from it, nobody.
Is that true? Is what's his name, Black-owned social media thing popping off? I mean, I admit I'm not there, so I don't know. But is that true? And again, and to the extent it's not, if the claim is, again, Black people make Twitter hot or Facebook hot or Instagram hot, again, yeah, so what? So what? You just we're being in a very neo-colonial way corrupted into producing surveillance of ourselves, wealth for them, and psychological warfare for, because as their own studies show, Black and brown girls are the biggest victims of Instagram and Facebook, social media racism and anti-Black imagery.
On it no more. That's just straight up what it is. And I know them folks don't like that. They got all this so-called money. A lot of it's just credit, but they got so-called money, and yet
that's Black people, by the way. Who is he talking about? That is he saying black people are doing well, but Latinos aren't because all they got is credit? What?
They can't do any of that with all their money. They still got to come break bread with black people. They just try to do it in the most inexpensive way possible. That's why I tell our people, get your money's worth. If you're gonna work with them folks, make them cash out.
Oh, so is he now saying that I might be a little bit, I'm not fully understanding. Is he saying then if you're going to work with the white folks, cash out because they got to deal with but that's what black people do all the time. That's part of the problem, and part of why my argument is that engaging in popular media it's a fallacy to think that that's going to turn the tide or bring something meaningful politically or even economically to black people. It might be something good individually if you sell yourself to a commercial and get a big check, but
charge them a reparations fee because they got it. Anything that we put our hands on is cool. We innovate a lot of things.
And again, you don't think 50 put a reparations fee on his vitamin water or on his deals for his TV shows with these white-owned distributors and networks and streaming platforms? You don't think his Netflix Diddy documentary wasn't him getting a reparation? And then, and to my point, what did it do? Has that meant for the black community? Nothing.
We don't have, listen, you don't have to create everything, but you sure can innovate it. You sure can change the way something is being used. We've done that many times. Shoot, the Chinese definitely has done it. You don't have to create everything. We ain't got to create AI, but we can innovate it and how we use it.
Not in a way that's going to upset the relationships. This is wild. That's wild. That's so why can't black people do what China has done in some vague sense? And what can we do to innovate this incestuous bubble that's about to burst with AI? That's wild.
We don't have to create social media, but we can innovate how it's being used. And you know, with us, and when we put our hands on something, it's going to be something every single time. And that is a testament to our culture. And a lot of people can't stand that about us too. They wish they could wear something and everybody go wear it because they wore it. They wish they can co-sign things and everybody go fool with it because they co-signed it. That's what, listen, y'all don't understand. That's where a lot of the hate come from other groups. You say, we didn't do these other groups anything. You haven't. But you being you is offensive enough.
Yeah, I think, he conveys that he thinks he's being deep. And no, the hatred of black people, anti-blackness is real, and it's born out of a lot of different things that predate black people being popular through cultural production that black people don't own and control or benefit from. So if anything, the popular image of blackness that has been distributed around the world has been done intentionally to cause the kind of disunity that he and others and FBA and others are playing off of and looking to take advantage of. But instead of recognizing that the popular image of blackness distributed around the world is one that is owned and controlled and managed and selected by white ruling elite corporations, and targeting them for a point of critique, if instead of evolving an FBA equivalent analysis of Said's Orientalism or something along those lines that would help the world and understand why the image of blackness that they get is what it is, the argument then becomes, no, they hate us because of that image, and therefore we shouldn't look to work with them or be in solidarity with them. And it's just bad analysis born of a bad structural problem. But so again, I'm not saying FBA and this dude and his upside down and backwards analysis is the problem. It is certainly a result of the problem, but it's definitely not helping.
Because they feel you don't deserve the position that you have. They deserve it. But they did not bear the cross that we bear and have bared in the past and what we still bear today. They do not want that cross. They don't want that crown because it's way too heavy for them to wear. It's kind of one of those things, do you really know what you're asking for? Do you really want it? Look, we staying out the way, not involving ourselves with their protests. Look how much they crying. They cannot bear the weight that we have carried.
So somebody can, if you have information on this, I'll check the chat, or somebody can email me. Where is the anti-black, the anti-ICE, anti-black messaging coming from? I haven't seen where black people are being called out for not supporting immigrants in the anti-ICE stuff. So if it is happening, I would like to know about it. But if maybe he gives his sources later on in this video, that after, you know, which I have not seen. But the argument is just, I mean, there's just so many flaws. I mean, the argument that people would be upset that black people are not participating because they want to replace black people as the dominant exploited cultural producing force in this country, that's ridiculous. If anything, people are saying they want solidarity because they need it and deserve it. You know, not because they want to replace black people with the, so this is, what is this? This is, again, FBA hanging out with Tucker Carlson and them too much. This is not some they will not replace us nonsense. This, but anyway, I'm just not aware if that's happening. If that's happening,
that's a testament to our culture. Our culture,
and it's a weird. I hope I'm threading this needle properly and being understood. Because I am maybe even more to this guy, as biased in favor of Black America as anyone, but I think it's a weird flex to say that our cultural production is exploited and taken advantage of more than any other group, and therefore we should be proud of that somehow, like we've done something. You know, on the one hand, yes, we could say, as a matter of pride, our Black Americans is culturally exploited because Black people just are the coolest and the best people on the planet, and therefore, yeah. But even if that's true, it still points to a politically powerless position that is not the result of immigrants. If Black people are not getting the appropriate reparative check for the exploited cultural production, that has nothing to do with Latinos and is a problem that predates anything involving ICE and immigrant concerns. So again, instead of challenging those who are doing the exploiting and generating the wealth and producing the endless amounts of resources as a result of the exploitation, he wants to turn around and say, yeah, we get exploited. Yeah, we produce wealth for all these white people and all this, but you know who we need to challenge and you know we should be mad at? It's them Latinos, who in their struggle against detainment, imprisonment, and assassination are looking for some solidarity. And we're saying no, because all you want to do is replace us and become the chief exploited community in the United States in terms of cultural production that you don't control, don't own, and can't even shape the form of. If anything, we should back up and raise another question. The obvious lack of power here is in the fact that we're listening to 50 Cent talk about how much wealth he and others can produce for white corporations by exploiting Black history and experience through a distorted cultural production that only white affluent audiences and investors want to see in the first place. I've made the point repeatedly that when John Lewis wrote in his memoirs, traveling through Africa as the head of SNCC, and being told by everybody he went to that Malcolm had become the standard for Black American politics, and that if Lewis and SNCC were anywhere to the right of Malcolm X, nobody in Africa wanted to hear from them. Fast forward, and now we got 50 Cent being considered a prime mover of Blackness on the continent of Africa. And how did that happen? Malcolm was a product of Black and international diaspora solidarity that made his impact as strong as it was. 50 Cent is a media product. He is Interscope, if I'm not mistaken. He's Universal Music Group that made him. That's that French Lucien Grange who made him this dominant spokesperson for blackness in the world that this host here wants to hold up as a beacon for what Black America should be aspiring to, and then using that to challenge immigrants from Latin America as opposed to white colonists and exploiters. This is, again, yet another confession of what FBA and related backwards hashtag groups actually are politically.
So alone, think about it. It's called Black History Month. And it's relevant because it's us. They can do the History Month of everybody. If they want to, they do Pride Month, they do all kind of months. But it's not as relevant as Black History Month. Let's call it what it is, because it's centering us.
Yes, Black people have a history with this country different from most, if not any other group. Absolutely. But to take pride in Black History Month being so, at this point, popular as a result of a white neo-colonial settler bastardization of even what Woodson was trying to do is, again, a weird flex that is one that is born out of a lack of understanding of the situation here.
Now, these corporations trying to go around and get, other immigrants who from the diaspora to do certain things, but we checking that too now. We say no.
We checking that too. When them white man come around with his check, waving his check in people's faces, we coming for that too. We're not letting them give it to somebody else in the diaspora or some Latin American immigrant. That's our money, boss.
Oh, you're going to center it back to where it's supposed to be, on Black Americans. And people don't like that either, because when we check you, you're done.
Again, when we check you, who you checking? The other Africans, the Latinos? Because you're definitely not checking the white man with the money, right? Because that's your best friend. That's your whole political project. Is the white man with the check?
We cut you off, you're done.
And now Black people have all this power. When we cut you off, you're done. When we cut you off, you're done. Because and I'm picturing like a sketch where it's like the line in front of the club, and it's like he's trying to cut in front of everybody to get in front of the line, and the club is white man money. he's like, we getting in front. I'm in. Hold up now. This is Black History Month. Not African, not Latin, not gay. It's Black, not women. It's Black History Month. We the first in the line to get that white money, to get in that white man money. I don't want no freedom. I don't want no socialism. I don't want no redistribution. I don't want no nothing, boss. I just want that check. And then looking at the side of that ring on his finger and that watch, he's just gonna give it right back to him. Don't you worry, boss. As soon as you give me that check, I'm gonna go right up in here, this white man money, and drink it all up.
Like that either. That we're gatekeeping, cultural gatekeeping.
Look at that ring.
We're not being disrespected like we used to be. So 50, 100% right. If we don't.
And who are you saying is doing this cultural disrespecting? You're saying it's the immigrants, the diasporan Africans? It's not the white corporations and the white audiences that pay to see all this media product depicting Black people in the most anti-Black, white-friendly ways?
Do something, it just won't get done.
This is the epitome of tough talk, of that fake bully tough talk.
Clothes, music, anything. And that's why I tell Black people, don't lend your voice to anything. Don't lend your moral capital to anything. That's what would make it more valuable.
He's saying don't support others in protest, because that's what would make it valuable. Because we all saw when Black people were out there doing Black Lives Matter and leading the way with Black Lives Matter or with civil rights or Black power, and it was just all Black people got everything they wanted. We got all the liberation we wanted when it was just all Black. When it was Black Lives Matter, everything got good, right? Right? Had a Black president and everything. How much cooler could Blackness have been when we had a Black president? You're right. He wasn't FBA though. You're right. My bad. My bad. And them three sisters, at least two of them three sisters that started, or at least one of them that started Black Lives Matter, she a diaspora. She a tether. That's why. And oh, my bad. You're right. Because Malcolm X, his mother came from. You're right. And Teray and them came from the Caribbean. So the civil rights and the Black Power movement wasn't nothing. You're right. Now, once it's strictly all FBA, now it's really about to get popping and free. Did you all check 50's background? I know he came from Jamaica, Queens. Is that too close?
Is when nobody has access to it. So when you do finally let somebody have access to it, it's going to be appreciated, and it's going to cost a lot.
It's going and the immigrants going to have to pay for all that Black culture. Oh, they don't have any money. The white corporations have all, and the white affluents have all. The consumers have all the money to spend. But we're not going. But it's going to be. But so I don't know where this money he's saying.
So shout out to all our brothers and sisters during Black.
Yeah, shout out to everybody during Black History Month. Woo! My. Yeah, and I'm looking at my notes here. So I'm saying, so you think not protesting ICE makes Black people safer? You think ICE agents running around here feeling emboldened makes you safer? Yeah. That was, yeah, COINTELTALK grifts well. I hope it's a COINTELPRO, man. I hope this is not just on some super auto colonialism. All right, let's keep it moving here. Uh-oh. Just when I thought it was safe to be mixed again.
It's not over, right? Word. It's not over. This is still going on to this day. And the absurdity is, I'll give you an analogy. You have a community of houses, and there's one neighbor who decides that he deserves more than the other people. So he starts going over to other people's houses and stealing their food and going into the pantry while they're at work and stealing stuff and enriching himself, right? And after a while, he gets more emboldened. He starts unhooking their plumbing and their electricity and their water and takes it over to his house. And when somebody objects, he throws a brick to their window and says it was a neighbor. And he starts pitting them against each other. Oh, right? Wow. And they start fighting. And there's violence. And he starts giving guns to one so they can kill the other, and giving guns to them to kill the other. And he starts, creating all this craziness and chaos and violence. And it goes on for years and years and years. So after a while, now his house is the biggest house in the neighborhood. And he's got a compound because he's sort of gotten some other houses, paid cents on a dollar because the neighborhood is in uproar, the community is dilapidated and destroyed, so people have nothing to eat anymore. And then all of a sudden, people start coming over to his house, right? Because he's the only one on the block who's got food, who's got shelter, who's got security. So they're jumping over fences and sleep in his backyard. And they work for scraps and work in his kitchen. And he calls them violent intruders, scum of the earth. He calls the police on them, and the police removes them back to their houses. But they don't exist anymore, right? Because they're dilapidated and destroyed. The whole community is destroyed. There's violence everywhere. Nothing works anymore. Yeah. So the absurdity is not that people come knocking. The absurdity is that America, France, England, they're shocked. They're appalled that all these people are fleeing rubble to get to abundance. Especially when that abundance is built on the destruction, the death, the exploitation, the theft of all these other houses, all these other people.
That's a great analogy.
Right? So that's where we.
So he is making sense. This is so. I'm gonna let it keep going, but this is part of the problem. It's not that there isn't a foundation of accuracy from which he and others build. It's just where they end up going.
Yeah.
And that's not over. That's still going on. France is still taking $500 billion a year out of Africa right now, out of their 14 ex-colonies, because they made them sign the Pact of the Continuation of Colonization back in the late 50s. And they had no choice but to sign.
And what does that look like? Because that means, so whenever these 14 countries that are, part of that, like when they have goods that they want to export, they can't, because
yes, they can, but they have to export them to France.
They have to export them to France.
And then they have to buy back. They have to buy back the products. They export the natural resources, the raw materials, and then they have to buy back the products from France.
With their money.
With their money. Now, France also forces them to spend to give up to 85% of their GDP to France. Up to 85%, right? They force them to give them French companies the first right of refusal for every public or private contract, right?
So if they say, hey, we got some cocoa beans here, we want to sell it to America.
No economic sovereignty,
wow.
No food sovereignty, no power sovereignty, right? Because they're forced, again, to export their resources to France and then buy back the products to survive. That's what's going on right now.
And this is why the France are kicking them some.
Exactly. And that's why, and France is taking the 500 billion and they invested in the stock market in France to the tune of trillions of dollars. Africa's not getting that. France is keeping that. And if somebody speaks up, they turn off the faucet of the currency because France is printing the currency for those 14 countries. That's why now you have people like President, like
Burkina Faso. What's the other guy? Niger and
Niger.
Those guys.
Exactly.
I'm glad this happening. It's
who
real.
Are getting together.
Yes.
And they're kicking out France because what happened before, if a country said no, France would pour concrete in their sewage system, in their water supply. They would destroy the schools and the hospitals before they leave, right? Then they would come in with mercenaries.
Yeah.
And they would take people out. Lumumba, Thomas Sankara, right?
Yeah.
That's what's going on right now. So colonization is not over.
154.
Oh, wait a minute.
You already know. I'm talking 154.
Man, my bad. Wait a minute. What happened? That is very weird. Was there another panel on this? My bad, everybody. The point I was waiting for is because he essentially gets to the point where he basically says things like, if we get involved with AI and I want to say crypto, but it might not be crypto, but it was something like that. He was like, if we get involved with AI, we can business our way. Like he had a business solution. God damn it. My fault, everybody. That's my fault. My fault. I don't know. That's what I was waiting on. Cause I'm like, yeah, he's like, yeah. Okay. And then it's like, yeah, that's why we need the AI and all that. And I was like, oh, and I thought that was the, all right, my bad, everybody. My bad. But there will be, by the way, there will be a Diallo sighting before the show is over. Now that you mention it. My bad. Dang. All right, this one is, I'm going to give everybody a trigger warning. I haven't watched this. I was asked to review this. I have not watched it. It's a white dude being critical of Black history. And I was like, I just can't watch it in advance. So I've been kind of holding, so I don't know what is going to be said here. So a little bit of a trigger warning. And again, I apologize for that last, damn. I really thought I had I don't know what, I really don't even know how I ended up with just that clip. Because the clip that I was sent. All right. So I don't feel like FBA needs the same kind of trigger warning as a white dude being critical about Black history. But I apologize. I do apologize for not giving the FBA warning. But this is worse. I think this is about to be worse. So yeah, maybe you do need to mute. But let's go. I have not seen it. The way it was sent to me, it suggests this is about to be brutal. But I was specifically asked. So, and apparently, so he's on a 28-day. This is just day 13 of exposing Black history.
Of exposing Black history because it just didn't even happen. So we hear all the time about how it's the fault of white people and white supremacy that Black Americans don't have generational wealth the way the white families have. This is taught about in schools, it's written about everywhere, it's all over the media. Funny thing is, it's just a lie. The obvious starting point is that Black generational wealth has lagged behind that of whites because of slavery. They couldn't build wealth because they were enslaved. And so after white people invented the abolition of slavery, they were already starting at a disadvantage. First, it's not enough to just look at the Black population by itself, since the South was much poorer in general for both Blacks and whites, and that obviously matters since most ex-slaves were living in the South. But research shows that after controlling for Southern regional poverty, economic gaps between descendants of enslaved and descendants of free Black Americans largely disappeared within 2 to 3 generations. So that means the differences in
what? So all right, you can't rewind that. So I have not seen that claimed research, but the research I've cited doesn't disputes that entirely. So, dang, you can't.
Schooling, income, occupation, home ownership, all of those differences were statistically insignificant by the grandchild generation, which means actually that slavery's direct economic effects diminished relatively quickly. Okay, but what about indirect? Maybe
that's again, among the data I cite all the time, the Laura de Renacourt paper by itself disputes and destroys this. So I don't know how that I have read and seen how she compiles the data there. So I don't know how what he's arguing here would refute that. But the idea that since the abolition of slavery ended, Black people have basically done the same is demonstrably false, because as she points out in her work, even if you start at the end of slavery and take out everything that happened since, which he seems to be ignoring, redlining, lack of, the racism in home valuation and access to loans and the blah, 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 sectors of the economy. She said, even if you take away all of that, the Black-white wealth divide would close to just 3 to 1, and that's as close as you could get. So I don't know what he's claiming to be citing, and I'll try to go back and maybe we can look it up. But
maybe the gaps between slaves and free Black people disappeared, but America was still obviously racist against Black people, right? So how was that not responsible for lack of wealth accumulation? They couldn't even get a job because they were Black. The idea that racism explains group differences in employment levels is pretty tough to square with the fact that there was like no unemployment gap between the races in the early 20th century, when white people were far more likely to be racially biased against Black people.
No employment gap between white and Black. So even if that quick thrown number were true, that does not account for disparities in income, disparities in wealth, disparities in potential to turn that into something to pass down to someone. So and then it doesn't say anything for the rest of the century. So he was saying at the turn of the century, Black and whites were being hired at the same rate. But again, without getting into how they were being paid, that doesn't mean that for the entire century, white and Black were being hired at the same rate, which has been shown repeatedly to not be the case with the twice rate unemployment rates and all that other kind of stuff. So yeah, this is.
And before the federal government literally outlawed workplace discrimination in all.
So the signing of the Civil Rights Act showing King and Johnson, King said himself that this bill was insufficient in addressing the economic inequalities. And he said he described being excited over this bill as rushing the football to the 50-yard line and calling it a touchdown. So yeah, this is really bad. Yeah.
All forms. So for 60 years, hiring discrimination has been illegal. Unequal pay has been illegal.
And then the fact that it was illegal doesn't mean it doesn't happen. But he seems to think that slavery just quote unquote ended and everybody was treated equally ever since.
We've had affirmative action, diversity initiatives, and the
affirmative action, of course, benefits white women more than any. And then where are these hirings taking place, and what does that actually mean? I mean, yeah.
Workforce, government, academia. Why still lower then? Maybe because of decisions they choose to make. We have
Oh, right. So it's a choice. So here's the paper from "Is There Racialized Legacy and Wealth Across Generations?" Evidence from panel study. Paper from 2016.
Research that shows that wealth transmits less strongly across generations for Black Americans than it does for white Americans. Specifically, that if you double the wealth of someone's grandparents, it predicts a 60% increase in wealth for the white descendants, but only a 9% increase in wealth for the Black descendants.
But what does the paper actually say is the reason for this? He's saying this is because Black people just make bad choices, which I think, honestly, I alone have shown that to be false. If you don't look at anybody else's work, but all the other work that's out there, which dwarfs my own, shows that the choice piece is false, even down to what choices we think we have to make as not being free and equal in and of itself. But saying that if you had gone back and given someone's grandparents twice the wealth, that it would still not have led to something more meaningful for their descendants, he wants to say it's just because Black people don't make good choices, and is likely ignoring what happens to those Black communities, even if they were given some money once upon a time back in the day. Where could they go with it? What could they invest in? What could they invest in that would bring them that kind of return? And then what would that mean across an entire community? He's extrapolating from the example, the one mythological example of one grandparent, and not across entire communities.
Using IRS data, we can see that Black children born at the top 20% of income are about as likely to stay up there as they are to fall to the bottom 20% of income, whereas white children born in the top 20% of income are far more likely to remain up there. We also have
okay, all of these are rapid fire and I can't rewind them, which is, so this, you can't scroll back. But he's saying that if at a certain class level, whites are more likely to stay in that class level than Black. And again, he's saying that this is based on choice and decisions that Black people are making, and not taking this as it should be as evidence of a more broad-based white supremacist society.
Of studies showing that Black households save at lower rates than white households, even with similar incomes. And
that's actually not, I would like to see where this is sourced from. This is April 2013, because most of the data I've looked at shows that Black people save at higher rates than whites, but they have less to save and can do less with it.
And that they spend more money on things like fancy cars, fancy clothing, federal.
And again, spending habit, you don't buy what you buy what is available to you. And if all the land is already owned by whites, if all the stock is already owned by whites, 1% have 90% of the stock, I think it's something like that now, then what are you supposed to buy with it? So this is, again, the white version. This is, again, sort of my point. When the Black financial literacists and the Black capitalists, it's another version of what I'm saying about the FBA and the reverse hashtag folks. They're claiming they're making a Black radical argument, but they're really taking white conservative nationalist supremacist talking points. That's why what he's saying here sounds a lot like what the Black financial literacists and capitalists say. He sounds like John Hope Bryant. This is exactly what John Hope Bryant says. Why haven't Blacks got the memo? There is no racism. So I just want to take the moment to highlight that continuity between this guy and all the Black pundits that he sounds like.
Federal Reserve research tracking financial habits also found lower average, quote, financial health scores, stuff measuring, good financial habits like.
Right. And that's why Dr. Erica Brown, now Dr. Erica Brown's work is so important, financial literacy. And if you really look at it, the way they set up those assessments, how do you determine someone's financial literacy? They, to suggest that because you score low on that, and he'll probably go through some of them right here, but to suggest that you score low on that means that that's why you're poor, or justifies why you're poor, is again to misrepresent how capitalism works, how the economy works. People are not poor because they're financially illiterate, and people are not rich because they're financially literate. People are rich or poor based on a number of different issues, most of which has to do with where you start, most have to do with your race, your gender, and again, your class position from the beginning, but it has nothing to do with some sort of, he's projecting this as if there's this some mass Black inherent cultural backwardness and financial illiteracy.
It's like paying bills on time, low debt to income ratio, saving any amount of money. They found the lowest.
And actually, that's not how. So he's actually wrong in this too.
Among Black families, and then that was behind Hispanic.
Researchers at the Federal Reserve Bank of St. Louis followed over 40,000 families from 1989 to 2013, tracking their wealth accumulation and financial decisions. They developed a financial health scale ranging from 0 to 5 that measured the degree to which families made what is the right financial, that's not the right, routine financial health choices that contribute to wealth accumulation, saving any amount of money, paying credit card bills, having a low debt to income ratio. At 3.12, Asian families scored the highest. Whites were 3.11, Hispanics 2.7, and Blacks 2.63. So I don't know any more about this claimed study, but the idea that people are poor because first of all, there's a lot that goes in. Were they not saving money because they didn't have any? Were they not paying credit card bills on time because they didn't have any money, because they were paying less per hour for the same job than whites and Asians were? There's a lot of other things that probably go into that. And then when you look at what Dr. Brown shows, the financial literacy scores are even more, I think, fraudulently concocted, because they're based on things that, do you know what a mutual fund is? Can you calculate the interest rate based on this, that, and a third, with this little bit of variables, that kind of thing. And the idea that if you can't calculate the correct interest rate over blah, 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 that's why you're poor, is ridiculous. And the idea, as she's also shown in her work, that is Dr. Brown, when Black people have higher rates of financial literacy, it does not help their economic condition, because again, that's not why they're poor.
Hispanics, whites, and Asians being at the top. And you can say, oh, well, white supremacy prevents minority groups from learning about good financial habits. That pattern held, though, even among the highly educated households. Also, how do the...
Because anti-Blackness trumps class in many cases as well. And Black people, even of a certain class position, are going to have limits confronting them relative to that class position. So, yeah, this is why I don't like these things. And I don't like, because it's bad enough to engage this white supremacist argument from Black people, which is really the only way I'm able to deal with it at all. I'm actually having, it's taking all of my energy to comport myself in a certain way here publicly, because this right here, this is why I don't argue with whites about this stuff at all, because all that's really there is this endless condescension and almost daring, and it's a bluff inviting some sort of response that would be seen as inappropriate. And that's all I actually end up wanting to give. So I don't engage folks like this for a reason, because it's a disingenuous, it's a bad faith argument. He just wants to justify his hate for Black people. And I promise I hate him more than he hates Black people. But anyway, what's of value here is that this is the face people should see when they hear John Hope Bryant.
How did the Asians figure it out then? There's even data showing that black Americans are less likely to pay bills than white Americans, even when they have the same credit score. So if the
Where is that data coming from? Because that's not the data that I've seen in academic reporting and scholarship on this issue. But, you know, I know that's not his goal here.
solution to generational wealth gaps is just paying reparations, literally, what is to say that would even work?
That's not, again, that's not what most of us say is the solution to generational wealth. In fact, reparations would not solve the generational wealth problem as it's being described here. So he's, again, all of this is just straw. But do note that many of the financial literacists, the black financial literacists, do so, like with the FBA reverse hashtag community. That's what they're doing it for a reparations check, because they are in line with this man's thinking right here. Their logic is right in line, and they're not interested in closing the racial wealth divide. They're interested in getting a check that they can give right back to the white-owned economy that they love so much and that they're so honored to have helped build.
Work. Also, we have spent over $4 trillion on this in the wake of the civil rights movement, and the wealth gaps have only gotten worse.
$4 trillion in 50 years is nothing, given that, again, the richest 1% in this country alone have 54 trillion by themselves, and the country produces 20 trillion plus every year in GDP. So that's nothing. In fact, you owe more than that.
Maybe it's not white people's fault. Truth matters, and I love the black.
It's definitely white people's fault. Yeah, but yeah, Boyce Watkins and Claude Anderson, I mean, they could sit right next to him and everything he said they would agree with. They might have his poster on their wall at this point. Yeah, I'm not reviewing stuff like that anymore. That actually messed up my whole mood. That was worse than I don't like that. I don't like that at all. All right, so let me just wrap up and then I'll check the chat for a few minutes at least, because I have two more movies on our Letterboxd starter kit to review, to talk about. So remember, I'm going off of this Freedom Now, a starter pack of 24 films about civil rights movement and black liberation from Letterboxd. And we've done Till, we've done Rosa Parks, we've done Ruby Bridges, did Freedom Riders, did Hidden Figures, and now we're here to 1964, Nothing But a Man. And described here as 2 months after Lyndon Johnson signed the Civil Rights Act, which prohibited discrimination in public spaces, Michael Romer's socio-political romance, Nothing But a Man, premiered at New York Film Festival. Set in Birmingham, Alabama in the early 1960s, the film follows Duff Anderson, Ivan Dixon, a proud new-to-town railroad section gang worker who, in the process of falling in love with the preacher's daughter, Josie Dawson, played by Abby Lincoln, comes into conflict with the town's racist white men. I think this is a misnomer. Duff is, in fact, part of a new generation of black men. Unlike their older predecessors, they're unwilling to bow to Jim Crow. Dixon himself was part of that generation too, attending the HBCU, North Carolina Central University, and becoming a vocal supporter of civil rights movement in 1960, as early as 1961, by serving as the president of Negro Actors for Action. Lincoln was similarly active, bursting into the UN to protest Patrice Lumumba's assassination, together with Romer's neo-realist sensibilities, which managed to capture black life in dilapidated urban spaces, refined neighborhoods and cotton fields, and railroad sites. A transitory moment for Black America is captured. I didn't have many notes on the film. I thought it was all right. And what I liked about it, I like Abby Lincoln. I liked the performance of even Ivan Dixon. I learned later that Sidney Poitier had been offered the role and turned it down. The writers are both white men, Michael Romer and Robert Young. Romer also directed it. I think that shows up in the work. But what I did look up was a review from RogerEbert.com about the film. And there's one line in it. Yaphet Kotto's in the film. So yeah, we would need folks like Mtume and Jared and Samantha and Renee and others to really tease out some of what I probably missed in this. Because first of all, as I said, the conflict, there isn't much conflict. There's the local crackers threaten and harass him for encouraging black workers to unify. He just has one, and first of all, it's a low energy, not bad, but just low energy. There's not a lot of intense action or speech making or arguments or. So like one scene, he's with the black workers and the white boss comes in and does his white boss thing. And then he leaves and Dixon says to the other workers, if we unified, it might, cause the, and then it's just kind of like that. Then that dude snitches, one of them snitch on him and report him to the other bosses as a potential threat, but the most elevated scene is when a carload of whites roll up on him, Dixon, as he's working at a gas station, and they, that sort of stereotypical Southern disrespect without the overt violence and N-word use is just sort of, check under the hood, boy, and do that, boy. Why don't you smile more, boy? That, and then Dixon sort of, once they start talking bad about his wife, Dixon sort of, is like, don't talk about her like that. And all they do is call the boss over and say, fire him or we're going to burn your sword or something like that. But they're not even really yelling. There's no so it's just kind of like, I don't know. It's just, but this one thing in this review, it says, the author says, who actually wrote this? Roger Ebert in 1993 wrote this himself. So he says, Duff and Josie, that is Dixon and Lincoln, find themselves drawn to one another. And then the movie asks itself its central question. Can Duff overcome his feelings of hopelessness and inadequacy in order to accept the happiness that Can Duff overcome his feelings of hopelessness and inadequacy in order to accept the happiness that is his if he'll take it? And that's sort of it. They show and I want to say they almost want to justify male violence against women by having Dixon's character come home and push Lincoln pregnant Lincoln to the ground after he's mistreated on the job, and he comes home and she's trying to make a happy home for him and he's not having it, and he pushes her to the ground. And they frame it in this, he's been mistreated all day, so he comes home and takes it out on her, but then he leaves her, reclaims his son from a previous relationship, disappears for a while, and then just comes back to her with the son. And then she essentially says, welcomes him and his son, and says, hugs him and welcomes him home. And then I think the last words of the film is him saying to her, "We're going to be okay." So I thought this was I thought that was odd. And then I thought that but I thought that what Roger Ebert says here is the film's central question: can he accept the happiness that is his if he'll take it? Is accurate in the way the film projects it. Yeah, things are messed up, but if you just, accept the happiness of your home and with your wife, you can, yeah, it sounded a lot of sus. It just felt like that. It just felt like, we get a little bit of an illusion. He's referenced as a union, or his white boss questions him at one point, says you unions and you do unions, and and he's like, he does, but he's like, you know. So I thought for a minute the movie was going to turn into the story of a union, or I thought he was going to be like a union organizer quietly trying to organize these workers as he went from all these jobs, but it wasn't, it didn't do that. It just kind of, so then I'm like, yeah, this makes sense as a white liberal film about the civil rights movement. Yeah, there's racist whites but you know, just, you know, you're going to be all right. You know, your father's a drunk. We do get to see, that's right. What's her name? Which was interesting because I believe this was her first film. The woman who many of us would eventually see play the Gloria Foster plays Dixon's father's love interest, but she's you know, we would come to know her many years later as the original Oracle in the Matrix trilogy. But apparently she got her film start in this film. But you know, I don't know, it wasn't bad. It just wasn't, you know. Now the next film was Rustin. And like Hidden Figures, I didn't go back and rewatch it. But what I did do is put together a clip for you that I'm going to show you from when we talked about it with Geechee and Diallo on Earn Your Liberation back in the day on Black Liberation Media. And I'll put the link to the full discussion if you want to see the whole thing. But I'm just going to play this clip because as I put it together, I was like, yeah, I'm not watching this movie again. This will stand as my ongoing, you know, still response. So let's check this out, and then I'll come back and we can chat it up for a minute or two if you all want before we move on. But here we go. Let's
by M.H. Wilson that talked about these buckers, they control the domains of discourse, right? So they set up what we argue about. And I just thought that this film would make us argue about his sexuality more than any other thing. And I feel like, well, I don't know if it's going to happen yet, but I feel like it could set people into defending his sexuality as opposed to his politics and any other stuff that we can get into, especially around this time, around the struggle in Palestine. But do you think that will be something that they led? I mean, will you think that's something that they would led with, or they made a lot about intentionally?
Oh, I mean, absolutely. I mean, to me, this is, I guess we starting now. I mean, I think there's a lot of hustles being played here. So I have a number of notes, but just specific to that question, I'll just say to start that I felt, this is how good the movie I think is. I felt moved watching it. Like I got all of the, and especially as someone who's very interested in being given his due credit, the idea that someone would be denied credit for their overall contribution just because of their sexual orientation is disturbing to me. So the way they delivered that was brilliant. But this is sort of what my problem is, and this is where I've been, you know, where I've adopted the woke imperium frame, that the desire to appease the need of an aggrieved group is being, just like it has been with the history that is at least theoretically central to the theme, that is the narrative or the subject of Black struggle. All of it is being presented in a way that supports empire. Now, especially in this time, and then especially watching it in conjunction with going back and reading another chapter or two in the Black Power and Palestine book, because Rustin is all up in that joint. I didn't even realize that at first. It feels almost entirely like there is a desire to almost sneak a Zionist supporting politic into a film about Black civil rights, under the guise of it being a very, after, you know, centering the homosexuality of Rustin, and even almost going too far, per the discussion that we started yesterday on the remix with FD Signifier's recent thing. Like it almost went too far into we're making this about the romance between this black man and his white boyfriend. And it was so to the point of the FD signifier piece from the remix the other day. If you did, if folks didn't see it, my point is that there is research that is new to me, published in 2020, and I shared the in fact, it's the misrepresentation of interracial couples on television advertisements by Aaron Hackenmuller, a graduate thesis from the University of Alabama in 2020, that details the way commercials have taken what is roughly a 19% occurrence of interracial relationships and magnified it to 50% in terms of commercials. But then when it comes to black men, when it comes to black men in particular, or when it comes to black interracial couples, they have to be posed with a white partner, even in homosexual relationships. So the distancing of black and white, even when they're, and then physically distancing, the study even goes into when it's black men and white women, the physical distance in the commercials, even among what are supposed to be couples, is literally greater. I mean, they did it. It's a fascinating study. So, but my point, so I don't know if I'm getting this, I'm doing this without my notes in front of me and without a script, but I'm saying, what I am trying to say is that I do think that they were, it does, because he was so pro-Zionist. So ultimately, my point is that I'm more interested in the politics. They're more interested in promoting a certain politics and approach to civil rights under the guise of promoting his homosexuality. And in so doing, they use characters like Adam Clayton Powell to condemn black power, to condemn black masculinity, to condemn even just a broad civil rights struggle and movement, never getting into the actual politics of the people involved. And then, as I'm going to come to in a minute, because I've been talking too long for this initial, when I'll fully explain this when I explain why I'm saying that the word picnic, to me, perfectly summarizes the political flaws in this film. But yes, I do think that they're playing games with the homosexual community, they're playing games with the black community, all under the guise of promoting a very state-friendly version of civil rights, and then particularly at this time, promoting a very pro-Zionist and aggressively pro-Zionist, pro-Israeli, even to the extent of contradicting his own pacifism. Bayard Rustin. So none of which is discussed in the film, but there's more. I'll stop there.
So definitely. So we're talking about Rustin, but I don't remember any international politics at all displayed in the film. So I
no, I'm saying, what I'm saying is that because I'm reading it with the chapter. Oh, I'm sorry. It's done indirectly. It's not on camera. You're right.
But so this Obama and the Obama production, right? Interestingly, as they would say, the goal of their production is to lift up black voices, or I'm sorry, diverse voices in the entertainment industry. Yet while producing a film of, would you say Randolph or King was the second leading star in that film? Because it seems like Randolph to me.
No, well, I think what they do, I think King is more, because they highlight more of the friendship that King has and his support for Rustin in the end. They play on that more, but they again do it in the context of King's support, for the most part, of a gay Rustin, but never in the context of a King's ever increasing radicalism. They talk about the 1963 march, which is the centerpiece, of course, but they never mention the fact that William O'Neill, working on the behalf of Hoover, already used that march to target King as the biggest threat in the country of bringing the Negro to communism, in direct contradistinction to their fears over the rise of the Cuban Revolution and King's increasing affinity already by 1963 for those politics. So none of that is in there because they want to reduce King to having him be seen as the focal point for the struggle within the civil rights leadership of accepting the very gay Rustin. And again, it was done well. I thought it was moving. I get it. I don't think it's an unimportant part of the story, but I think they're doing it on purpose to present themselves as offering some progressive media, but really doing the very old, tried and true undercutting of radical politics, of Black power. And again, when I explain my picnic reference, I think it's gonna. I mean, it's to me, it's set book to reference the Spades game we was playing yesterday.
Right. So they didn't put your boy Kwame Ture in, but do you feel like they even showed a glimpse of Ella Baker's radicalism? Because it seems like they like.
No, I think they couldn't, and I even have a note here that they couldn't because she was pro SNCC, and SNCC in this film becomes the enemy. So you can't have, and in Rustin's real life, SNCC becomes the enemy. And reading that Black Power Palestine book, SNCC, like he hates SNCC. Like he hates SNCC like the Klan almost. It reads
everything Black Power he hates.
But SNCC in particular.
Yeah.
So Ella Baker's, even as they're having the scene where the sister who's the doctor, woman organizer of the women in the march, who's leading the vocal charge against the exclusion of women, even as they're having that discussion on camera, you don't see Ella Baker. Like Ella Baker's like on for like 2-3 scenes. She says 1, 2, 3 things. You get there's no suggestion of her power and importance to the history of the struggle and to her own radical politics and to her own allegiance with SNCC. So you don't get any of the emergence of SNCC or any of the politics of SNCC. Black power is dismissed by a brash young man being aggressive and hostile to the white boy and to Rustin's lover and to Rustin himself, to the one reference to Malcolm X that you get in the film, which is again, that brash, young, immature, violent, blah, 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 blah. And then, by the way, that same character comes back later as a trainer for Black cops on Rustin's behalf. So what they're doing here is it's very slick. It's very slick.
I wonder who that young man was supposed to be, like, because
all Black radicals. That's all. Unnamed Black male radicals.
Will that be
any of them? I think he's a composite of all of them.
Yeah,
he's meant to represent everything Black masculine and Black power, and he's not brought in line until he's training Black cops to work peaceably for the march on behalf of Rustin.
That's community control of police. What you did, Diallo? Did you get to do your homework? I know you was boycotting this shit.
I didn't watch that shit.
So if I can, let me just make 2 quick points more. I think I actually made all my points, actually, looking at my notes. Yeah. Let me just make 2 quick more points, and then because one of which is actually an interesting connection to my father, which I thought was interesting in the film. The line "picnic." I don't know if anybody caught it this way, but there's a scene where the actor playing the real life character of Cleveland Robinson, the brother from the Caribbean. He's getting riled up when they're having an argument over who's going to be at the march and lead the march on Washington and this, that, and the third. And at one point, when they say it's only going to be this group of leaders and you're not in the room, something like that, he starts yelling and getting all, calling them out their name, talking about their mama. Yeah, and he's talking about their mama. And then he says the line, "You're going to turn this into a picnic."
Oh, yeah.
And I said, that caught my attention. And I said, that's the Obama effect right there. Your little button pushing allusions to Blackness and Black history, but all out of context and for your disturbed purpose. When going back in the day when I used to pay very close attention to that early campaign in 2008, when he would make allusions to Langston Hughes without saying his name, make allusions to Dr. King without saying his name, all so that Black people would get the signal. Black people would get the dog whistle, so to speak, but white people would get it in a way that doesn't hurt their feelings. So in this scene, when he says the picnic line, that of course is famously the line that Malcolm X used to describe.
Message to the grassroots, right? Yeah.
And but because you can't have Malcolm actually included in the film, except for that one reference to disparage him and his politics, you can't have the context
in Malcolm in your shit.
All right. Yeah. Yeah. So I definitely I definitely edited that to leave in the fact that Diallo admitted to not doing his homework, and then y'all want to give him credit for that, like he's too cool, like he had it right. No, he didn't. We were all agreed to watch the film and come back and talk about it, and then he wants to pull a Diallo, a diva, and not do the homework, and then y'all want to give him credit for it. That's shame. But yeah, so that will stand for why my thoughts on the film, Rustin, and why yeah, why I would have thought the way I would have thought about it, why I didn't want to watch it again, and why I think it's safe for the letterbox list. Jealous of what? Of who? So yeah. Anyway, but so yeah, we'll keep moving through the list. Let me see. And if folks if folks want and got a couple of minutes, I can hang out for some comments, questions, queries, conundrums, catechisms, cacophony, calumny, consternation, condemnation. So next we have Four Little Girls. I don't know if I'm going to be able to watch that one again, to be honest. That was what I was hesitant for. But we'll have to see. Four Little Girls and One Night in Miami, which I'm definitely not watching again. I'll re-edit and clip my response to that. Selma is also comes up after that. I might not rewatch that either, but I thought I might have some fun, because when I went looking through my catalog, I saw that back when Selma first came out and we were criticizing it, Dr. Carr used to rock with us on that a little bit. So we got a couple Dr. Carr. We might have to bring some Dr. Carr back up here from back before his days on Roland Martin and Karen Hunter. The pre-Roland Martin Greg Carr. Because we did have Vernon is crying right now. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. There is, I'm not gonna, unless you all look it up, there's a surprising, I think I probably already mentioned it and ruined the surprise, but there was a surprising entry on this list of films. But let's see. So Selma's after that. So I've seen all of it. So Freedom on My Mind, I have not seen. So that'll be one coming up. A Crime on the Bayou, I have not seen. You know what? Loving is on here. I never watched Loving. So this will be my first time when we get to that. Loving is on there. I'm not going to rewatch Malcolm X. King, a filmed record, Montgomery to Memphis. I have not seen that either, so that'll be new to me. And I have not seen this cartoon, Our Friend Martin from 1999. Oh my goodness. I did see MLK and the FBI, so I might do some editing and bring some of this stuff back. I'm Not Your Negro. I'll probably watch that. I don't think I ever saw that all the way through. Black Panthers from 68, The Urban Cry. I got a lot to do. And we're already in March. Remember the Titans is on here? All right, so we'll see. We'll see. Thank you for the super chat. Great show. Is it still possible to get a signed copy of your book? Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it is possible. I don't know. I mean, I don't have any more copies. So I suppose the only way to do it would be if you had a copy and I signed it and we met up somewhere, or if I was invited to a book talk somewhere. Still haven't been to Bus Boys. And where's Evan at? What happened to that Sankofa? but yeah, I'd be happy to do it. I don't have I just don't have any more copies, but thank you for that, for your interest in it, at least, you know. Yeah, so let's see. Dr. Ball, I was hoping you could elaborate on a point you were making about the idea of the black monolith as it pertains to the usefulness of actual power in one of the Black Israel video breakdowns. Sure. Thank you, Stone City. So the short of it is, and I'm borrowing, and I get this largely again from Glenn Ford. This is where I learned that argument that still makes the most sense. That when anyone argues that their group is not a monolith, they're advocating for a weakened polity. They're advocating for, because in other words, what gives any community strength is unity in numbers. So when, usually when you hear someone say Black people are not a monolith, they're looking to represent a more conservative political position that they know is not popularly understood to be associated with Black people. Tactically speaking, no one should advocate to being some disaggregated, disunified variety. I don't even know what's the exact opposite of a monolith, a polylith or whatever. Like there's no, what is the value in that? So yeah, there's this defensiveness, I think, around saying, we're human like everybody else. We have diversity and opinion just like everybody else, but that's not what it should be. Is, as Glenn used to put it, there should be the bright line. There should be drawn the bright lines of the political bright lines that Black people will not cross. So where it should be understood that everybody's on the same page. That's what gives strength. So if you have, for instance, if you wouldn't want someone being invited to panels and TV or whatever to say, hey, Black people are diverse. Not all of us have a problem with police violence. Not all of us think police brutality is an issue. We're not a monolith. So when you see all those people protesting, just remember there's at least one that is saying we're not all on it. Don't worry about it. That was the point when Malcolm used to, there's even that clip that famous clip of him in the street being interviewed. And, as soon as he says something, the reporter turns and finds a conservative Black person who says, I don't agree with Malcolm. And Malcolm said, look, of course you're going to find somebody, because that's the whole, and that, because the goal is to undermine the argument. So that's really what I think it is. That's really my point, and how I approach it. Why would you want to run out there and be like, we're diverse, we're different, Exactly, Gates. Like that's exactly what Gates was doing in his interview with Cam in particular. We're not a monolith, hey man, because that's what Gates wanted. A conservative Black man wanted to promote the idea that his conservativeness should not be seen as disassociating him from the Black community, because his value to his white sponsors dissipates if he can't promise those sponsors that he's got a Black community he's dragging behind him into some nonsensical conclusions. So you have to, that's why John McWhorter, that's why years ago I was arguing that he went on Eric Dyson's radio show. Why else would he talk to that? Why does he do a show, at least up until recently, do a show with what's his name? The other Black conservative who messed up around saying something in solidarity with Palestinians. What's his name? But it's like it reads to me is that they are each other's only Black friend, and they have to talk to one another so that the Manhattan Institute and whoever else is white conservative sponsoring them will be like, see, our hired Negroes talk to other Negroes. They don't need to hire a black person, only talk to the whites. They got that. No, it's not Mark Lamont Hill. And I can't imagine Mark Lamont Hill would actually do a show with John McWhorter. That's who it is. Glenn Lowry. Thank you, Arthur. Like Mark Lamont Hill is not going to, I would be, oh my God, I would be beyond shocked. The first thought I had is Mark Lamont Hill doing a show with McWhorter would be as bad, almost as bad as Charlemagne the God doing a show with Andrew Schultz. And I don't know why I think that's so funny, and all disrespect intended. The Sowells, the Sowells of black folk. Wow, that's a good one. Bad punny in the building. So all right, good people. I think we can make sure, definitely, again, I want to mention this again. Please, in addition to going to Saturdays with Renee from yesterday, please come back over here on, by the way, we got on the 8th, Hiram Rivera's coming back to talk about FIFA sports and the Trump Board of Peace. But on the 3rd, so this is Tuesday coming up, we're going to be talking about The Voice of Hind Rajab, which is a disturbing masterclass in propaganda with Samantha Youssef. And she's written something about it. And I think it's already linked in the show description there. So you can, go get her Propaganda, Politics, Academy Awards in film, so you can do your homework and be ready to talk about this film, because I'm having too much fun right now, so I don't want to talk too much about it, because that film deserves to be discussed with no humor and no smiles on any faces, and at the same time, I don't want to get any more upset right now. We're about to wrap up. Have a nice Sunday. I'm going to save all my anger for Tuesday. You're going to cry a lot, and you're going to cry more when you hear what Samantha, and when you read what Samantha has to say about this thing. Woo! So, all right, good people. No, thank you. Looking forward to it, Samantha. And did you know, folks, Samantha showed me some early sketches of the Buying Power graphic novel. Shh. Oh, you know what? Also, go check Lil Bill's. Lil Bill, do you all watch that channel? Watch Lil Bill's channel. He did a great breakdown about Jay Electronica, and I get a shout out in it, and I appreciate it. But more important than a shout out, I got a new drop for the show. It didn't come up today. I was wondering if it was going to come up today, but I'm gonna play it anyway. But because we definitely have some use for it.
Y'all gotta stop letting these who wasn't there try to rewrite the history, man. I saw this for myself.
Got to stop it. Because
is Jared in class today? Jared, are you here? Oh, yes, you are.
Yes, I am. Absolutely. Yeah, he said I was like, I'm clipping that. I was driving when I saw it and had to make a note. So I was like, when I get some, I'm clipping that.
Y'all gotta stop letting these who wasn't there try to rewrite the history, man. I saw this for myself.
All this discussions of hip hop and Gen X activism. Woo. Anyway, all right, good people. Thank you very much for joining me today. Please do like, share, subscribe. Whatever you want to do to support the platform is more than welcome. Remember, Samantha on Tuesday, and a few days after that, we get.
You just don't read, beloved.
himself coming through to talk about sports and the World Cup and FIFA and Trump's plans for Palestine. Come on, man. Come on, man. You know where I'm at.
But this particular situation, out of many situations that I didn't hate, I'm going to have to hate until further notice.
We already know. Hating on that. But anyway, thank you very much, everybody. Peace only if you're willing to fight for it, as Fred Hampton used to say. And I will check you out next time with more.
And what did you sacrifice? Calm. Kindness, kinship. Love. I've given up all chance at inner peace. I made my mind a sunless space. I share my dreams with ghosts. I wake up every day to an equation I wrote 15 years ago for which there's only one conclusion. I'm damned for what I do. My anger, my ego, my unwillingness to yield, my eagerness to fight, that set me on a path from which there's no escape. I yearn to be a savior against injustice without contemplating the cost, and by the time I look down, there's no longer any ground beneath my feet. What is my sacrifice? I'm condemned to use the tools of my enemy and defeat them. I burn my decency for someone else's future. I burn my life to make a sunrise that I know I'll never see. Now, the ego that started this fight will never have a mirror or an audience or the light of gratitude. So what do I sacrifice? Everything, 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 everything.
I mix what I like, what I like, what I like, what I like, what I like.